The Mario movie is finally out and the results are in. Critics hate it, while audiences love it. Where do I stand? I had no hope for the Mario movie, much like everybody else. With the initial announcement of it being helmed by Illumination, who are mostly known for their soulish cash grab franchises like Minions and Sing, then made even worse after the reveal of the questionable casting choices, such as Chris Pratt's Mario and Seth Rogen's Donkey Kong. But after that first trailer came out, the public consensus immediately shifted. It actually looked kinda good? No, I wasn't fully convinced. Trailers aren't really indicative of a film's actual quality, and so the real movie could have still come out filled with your typical Illumination-isms, but I still went in with an open mind. I've never really been the biggest Mario fan, which is strange to me because I grew up with the franchise, arguably more than something I do actually like, such as Sonic. I think I've played just about every single mainline Mario game and still buy them when they're released, but there's just something about the characters and the world that don't do it for me. It's all so sanitized. His world looks like it's made of plastic, mainly referring to the way it's stereotypically presented in renders and such. But because of that and their lack of any real story or engaging characters, I fail to grow attached to any of them. It's not a problem, of course, Mario games are mostly amazing, but I just never find myself being, like, into Mario, you know? To me, it's on the level of Mickey Mouse, more of an icon than a character I actually care about. But because of that, it left most people wondering, how could you possibly make a Mario movie? Like, with a story and character arcs and such, without completely needing to change what makes Mario, Mario. And so I sat down at the midnight premiere on Wednesday in a theater filled with Nintendo fanboys, and just how was it? It was cute, I guess. The Mario movie has a cavalcade of flaws. I would be hard-pressed to call it great. Hell, I'd argue about whether or not it's even good. But most of its issues come from what it doesn't do, rather than anything in the movie itself being that bad. And because of that, I mainly came out of it thinking, that was fine. And also that I can understand completely why these two scores are entirely different. But I want to talk about all that Rotten Tomatoes stuff near the end of the video, so let's get into the actual movie first. Also, guys, thanks for 500,000 subscribers, much appreciated. If we get to 1 million, I'll sell what the LS stands for. Subscribe today! The Mario movie sees Mario and his younger brother Luigi starting up a new plumbing business in Brooklyn, which is seen as like a massive risk with all their family telling them how dumb and stupid they are for doing it. Now I know this movie is fiction. While they try to prove to everyone what amazing plumbers they can be by going down into the sewer line, they accidentally fall through an abandoned warp pipe, which leads them to another world. Luigi falling near Bowser's kingdom, and Mario winding up in the Mushroom Kingdom. And so now it's up to Mario to prove himself as a somebody, once and for all, by helping Princess Peach gather an army to put a stop to Bowser and save his brother, before the giant turtle destroys all the land. The story for this movie is paper thin, and that's not really an issue. It was the biggest thing folks were concerned about, considering you have to find a way to make sense of this world that was only really ever meant for a video game, and I think they went the best route here. How do they justify all these bizarre elements like floating blocks, power-ups, and crazy creatures? Well, they don't. But because we're following Mario going from the real world to this new land, it entirely bypasses needing to justify it, because it's presented as weird and new. And I thought all that was very smartly done. I'm not a fan of how fast it all feels. I was curious to see what all the complaints were talking about when they said the movie had serious pacing issues, and after watching, I get it. It really comes off like the people behind it had this massive list of Mario things they wanted to include, and so you can tell they're trying to rush through it all as fast as possible to get the chance to show you everything. And while I get that approach, especially considering the franchise's vast 43-year history, I understand wanting to show off as much as possible, but a result of that is that nothing ever gets enough focus to feel fleshed out. You feel like they're setting something up that is just abandoned so they can take a new direction for the next 5 minutes. For example, when Mario gets to the Mushroom Kingdom, you're introduced to Toad, who directs him up to Peach's castle to meet her and get help. Then after a short training montage, the three of them set out on an adventure to get to the Kong Kingdom, so they can build an army to defeat Bowser. It reminded me a lot of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, with this little trio right here, but the adventure just consists of a single minute-long montage of them walking through these different locales. Then you get a scene of them talking for a very short period of time, and then they're at the Kong Kingdom. Then after a fight scene, they recruit the Kongs and make go-karts to go defeat Bowser. But before even getting there, all the Kongs are kidnapped, and Peach just drives back to her castle so that Mario and Donkey Kong can have some time alone, and so that Peach can get kidnapped. It doesn't sound that bad, and really, it's not. But when you're watching it, it's all going by so quickly, and because of that, nothing really feels developed enough. This is especially apparent with the characters and how undercooked they all feel. See, a movie not having the most original or detailed story, don't care. If anything, I like simple stories. But the characters don't get that same pass. I kinda need to care about these guys. And a great way to do that is by letting them actually work off each other, have dynamics and arcs. But the Mario movie, being so insistent on speeding things along to get to the next plot point, either hits all those beats in the most quick and surface level way possible, or just doesn't have them at all. I like Mario and Luigi, their bond was sweet. It's nice seeing MatPat's game theory from 20 years ago where he calls Mario a sociopath be disproven. Everything he does is for his brother, and it was nice to see, but Mario's relationship with any other character feels so bare bones and non-existent. Mario and Toad are a great example of this. Mario is initially presented to be very annoyed by Toad. He doesn't even seem to want him to join in their adventure when the three of them are setting out, looking disapprovingly when Peach offers for him to come. Again, it's the exact same dynamic as Puss in Boots with the little dog, but whereas there they had multiple scenes of them interacting and bouncing off of each other, eventually bonding and Puss realizing that he's not as bad as he thought, and even grows to appreciate his new friend, I don't remember a single time Mario and Toad ever even spoke to each other in the rest of the movie. You set something up that has the potential to be interesting, but wind up with a relationship much more reminiscent of the Minions movie, which is fitting, I guess, where they try to establish the dynamics between the three characters, but end up doing nothing with it after the fact. It's the same thing for the others too. He likes Peach, he has a crush on her, and they have other characters acknowledge them flirting. Not really brought back in any way. Ironically, the character he works off of most is Donkey Kong, who isn't even in the movie until around halfway through. But again, it's the most in-depth any of them get, and it's still just the most bare-bones thing imaginable. While they're trapped, they say they relate to each other because they both have father issues. And then they forget about that to escape and rescue Peach. We'll check that off the list. That's what it feels like, just hitting all the marks so they can quickly move on while giving the illusion of character. Like, it's not bad, but there was room for so much more. Bowser is a character I was also pretty mixed on. Most people seem to have loved him and thought he stole the show, and while I certainly didn't dislike him, it's not what I personally would have expected. You ever see Wander Over Yonder? Very good show, especially season 2. Well, Bowser is literally just the villain from that series. He has this army of similarly looking henchmen who all do his bidding, but at the same time kind of question his logic. He has his right-hand man who is confused by his actions but still admires him greatly, and despite being this tyrannical dictator who rules over kingdoms, he just wants to find love and gets all sappy about it. I don't mind that in and of itself, but I wish they maybe had a greater balance between threatening Bowser and love-struck Bowser. During the middle portion of the movie, it really just felt like they would only ever cut back to him as an excuse to have a joke about how much he's in love with Peach. And I just wish we got to see him as more of a threat, especially considering the entire opening and ending does that pretty well. But hey, at least Jack Black gives a good performance. Can't say that about some of the others. Dude, Chris Pratt just kept telling people, wait till the movie is out. I promise you I don't sound shit in the movie. He sounded shit. He's constantly switching the voice. Did anybody else notice that? Sometimes he's trying to do the Mario voice. Sometimes he's just doing his own. And at other points, it's just like this weird combination of both. Which honestly was probably the funniest thing about the movie. Seeing Mario get mad and walk away from his family as they disapprove of his life choices. Clearly it's not trying to be funny, but it's fucking Super Mario. How could I not laugh? Everyone else is doing a good job though, except for Cranky Kong. I didn't think his voice fit very well either. And I'm just saying, if you're gonna get Seth Rogen to be in your animated movie, you gotta restrict yourself to one patented laugh. It is so distracting. The animation was gorgeous though. If there's one thing I can consistently give Illumination, it's that their movies always look visually great. I know that's by design, everything is so simple so it can be made on the cheap, but hey, when it works, it works. And this is one of the most colorful animated movies I've seen in recent times, and it's refreshing. The boarding too was amazing. Everything was so expressive. I loved the action scenes. It's a real joy to watch. I will say though, I wish the references weren't so obnoxious. Obviously, that's not talking about Mario Kart or the power-ups and whatever. I get why that's there, and it doesn't bother me that much. Everyone and their grandmother has played a Mario game before, so I get all that observational humor about the mechanics and such. I'm mainly talking about when they really need to rub your nose in it, and it gets a little too blatant and takes me out of it. Like, I enjoy Mario's actual voice actor Charles Martinet getting a cameo near the start as a character who looks exactly like Mario's original design as Jumpman, but did he really need to end his line by shouting wahoo and jumping in the Mario pose? Why stop there? Why not have him stare at the camera and say, I'm Mario, I'm the voice of Mario, do you get it? Again, it's not the worst thing in the world. With a movie about something as broad as Mario, I can understand them wanting to shove in as much as possible. I just thought it got excessive at a few points. But yeah, the Mario movie wasn't bad. Wasn't great, but if you're a Mario fan, this really is the best case scenario. However, much like with Sonic 2, fans were getting furious on Twitter upon the top critics reviews being released on Rotten Tomatoes, where it currently stands in the lower 50s, with crowds of people coming out to say that doesn't matter, reviews on the internet don't matter at all. They then went on to flaunt the audience score around, but anyway, I've seen some really dumb defenses of this movie that just leave me wondering what's the point in even saying anything in the first place. Like, just enjoy the movie, that's perfectly fine. But somebody saying that the pacing was fast or that the story and characters were non-existent isn't unjust. They aren't in the wrong for feeling that way. And blowing it out of proportions like the way I've seen is just so lame. I've seen some bad defenses of the content in this movie. Like how the Mario games don't have a story, so why do you expect that from a movie? Not understanding the obvious fallacy in that statement, of course being, why make a movie if you don't want to tell a story? It's a movie. Movies are stories. Well, that's not true. The worst by far that I've seen has to be that they're sick and tired of movies needing to be good. Not realizing that's basically just calling the movie bad. Why can't people just like what they like and dislike what they dislike? Why does there always need to be some victor? Somebody wanting a great story and character from Mario doesn't make them stupid. Doesn't mean they have high expectations. Why do we need to have low expectations to enjoy a movie? Look at the Lego Movie. That didn't need to be as good as it was, with a fun, simple plot and likable characters, but it was, and that's amazing. Why couldn't somebody have wanted something similar for Mario? I don't know, just something to think about. I feel like I go through that thought process every time a new animated movie comes out. It's not really specific to Mario, I guess. But even then, I like the Mario movie. Do I think it's great? Nope. But for what it is, it's enjoyable. With a straightforward plot and characters that at the very least I didn't dislike, I'd say it's about what I expected. If you want to see me talk more in depth about it, I just released an episode of my podcast. It's basically a big 1-hour review. So check that out to hear my thoughts in more detail. And get ready, because we all know what's next now.